No, this is regular glue. I'm not sniffing glue. Hello, wood nerds and DIY junkies. Time to get off the sawdust. That stuff causes clutter. And this is how you fight clutter right here. We're going to go from a blank wall, wiping a mess off this table, populating this wall. We're going to go over building this long one as an individual, and we're going to build this cabinet, and we're going to build this particular fixture here. And if you stick around to the end, I'm going to show you some little knickknacks that I've come up with. So if you like what you see in today's video, you might want to like and subscribe, because I'm going to be doing quite a few more of these fixtures. There is a lot to be said about having your tools right at the point of use, but having it look like this, that's not what they mean. Let's clean this mess up.
You can start small because this is a flexible system. You're going to make changes to it. There's a lot of advantages to using cleat wall systems. They are very strong. They give you the ability to, at a moment's notice, change up your whole entire layout. You can group product families. You can even swap out things on your wall based on a particular set of jobs that you may be working on. There's a lot of benefits to them, and they're fun. It's a challenging process to take a group of tools and create a fixture that is going to accommodate and hold all those. Think of it like 15-minute scrap wood projects. Here I'm grouping together a bunch of things that I need every time I'm going to put in screws, countersinks, drill bit. Let's move on to locating the studs.
Here's an example of magnets that this is going to show you something here that you're not going to be able to really determine with one of them stud finders. This magnet is on the head of a screw that is on a sheet of drywall that is on this side, and this line represents the space between the two. And this one, the sheet of drywall on that side. I marked out 16 inches on center, like the studs are. You can see right here is another magnet that I put on the screw, and it corresponds with my 16-inch on center. You can use stud finders. This works fine.
Subscribe, get notified, share, like.
Drilling 2 holes in each one of these.
These are 3/4 of an inch red oak plywood. I went with a 5-inch spacing on these because most of the items that I'm going to be putting on my wall are fairly large. I mounted these directly on the drywall, obviously, but some people mount these strips on plywood and then they'll attach the plywood to the wall. Typically, you're going to want to rip down as many strips as you're going to need, planning on getting 2 strips out of each rip cut. If you wanted 2 3/4 inch cleat strip, you would rip down a 3/4 inch board to 5 inches wide, and then take those strips, set your distance from the blade at 2 1/8 of an inch, and set your bevel to 45 degrees. And that will give you 2 3/4 inch strips. Here's the formula that you use for that. And this is 2 3/4 of an inch tall. Follow up by knocking that sharp point off.
I'm a Lowe's partner, and if you want to support the channel, there will be a link in the description at no additional cost to you. I appreciate your support.
Now let's make a couple fixtures. This is actually going to be more like a cabinet, and it's kind of a unique build, so I wanted to include this one in case this is something that you might want to do in conjunction with your cleat wall.
We're back from the table saw. I'm going to put a brad in it to kind of secure it, then I'm going to drill it, countersink it, and screw it. I got 4 cut pieces. These are 1.5 inches shorter than the long ones that are going to go between these. These will get mounted to the wall in such a manner that the back of this is flush against the wall, and I will not have a 3/4 inch gap running all the way down it. So now I'm lining them up at the top because I want to hold everything up as high as possible. I don't want my nail to go in just a little bit to the low side. And I'm just going to hold this, pushing upwards.
I have the wall cleat clamped between that clamp there to give me my spacing.
Now we'll do the same on the bottom. The bit that I used might have been just a hair on the tight side, so I'm waxing these screws.
Put the two shelves in and this baby's ready to hang.
You need to hang the top and then locate the bottom cleat. I'm putting a second cleat on this, but you locate the bottom cleat so that it's tight, and you can try as best you can to make a full load here and a full load there. This top cleat is clamped to this bottom cleat. Not terribly tight, but this is not going to lift. I have pre-drilled and countersunk these. I'm going to show you how I'm going to put this in here, and I think this is worth the time and the effort. These screws angling slightly upwards is key. If you have these going slightly downwards, it's going to pull it away. You want to pull it together, and that should hold it tight. I mean, this is very slight. If it looks like a lot, it's not. And there you go. Booyah. Hey, you stay. Be right back. I mean, that's pretty solid as it is.
Now this is a cool idea I came up with for some light duty items that adds even more flexibility in the learning process of what needs to go where.
We're gonna glue these miniature cleats on. We're gonna use Type Bond Premium. I cut these to the same width as this board, and that board is gonna get mounted on a cleat of its own. I'm gonna just let these sit here for a minute.
I picked up these Pony Jorgensen saw horses that come with clamps with a gift card that Lowe's issued me.
So I just flipped this over.
I am gonna come back and add screws to this.
I'm not gonna hang this up until this dries, because if you do, it will be glued permanently. And here's how they go together. Downward force on here. There is a force going this way, but in this position, it's well supported right here. These narrow, short wall cleats, in this case, these light duty ones, don't have very much support extending downward. Now, if we go up here and look at this one, you see how much more space there is between those? Well, there's no support on that bottom edge of this light box. If you put this up here, see, it doesn't take very much force, and it wants to lift off of that. There's not very much weight in it. We just put a block on the back of the wall fixture. So now you've given a support, and that force that's protruding that way doesn't have an adverse effect on the functionality of it. That's my shop rag box. And you can see I attached some supports at the bottom of this to keep it from rotating off of that top cleat. And this is kind of an experiment for me. I just want to see how well this works. I could just as easily cut the cleat off the top and the other piece off of the back and just mount this straight on the wall if I wanted to, but I'm trying to maintain flexibility because I just set this wall up, and the beautiful thing about these French cleats is they're completely flexible. And this grinder is pretty heavy, and it's in here. But if you have one that you're a little concerned about, you can lock it in place. To lock this in place, you have to keep this point from coming off of this cleat. Now that locks this in place. It is not coming up. So that's just one way to do it. For this next fixture, we're going to incorporate some cool outside the box kind of thinking to kind of illustrate what you can really do with these. This is going to be a fixture like this. We're going to put this on the back side. Let's put some glue on this dude. This fixture is going to incorporate a grouping of different tools that I will need when I do one particular task, and I can just grab this whole box off of here. I think it's a great example to kind of show the thought process of laying out your tools. So try and come up with a guess as to what I'm making and drop it in the comments. It'll be evident pretty quickly. That round disc that I secured to this fixture is actually the cut off bottom of a bowl. The sides of that are tapered to meet flush with the face of that chuck. This entire project is all scrap wood, reclaimed wood, just simply items that I had on hand. There's really no need to go rushing out and buying a bunch of new plywood. If you've never had one of these before, experiment with it. Start small, make them a bunch of little projects. Now, when I feel like turning some bowls on the lathe, I just pull this off the wall and go to town. This is pretty interesting. I took my pocket hole jig. I've got a few more things I'm going to add to this, but I'm utilizing the pocket hole jig as my board. So this is just got stuff that I use when I'm drilling up. I kind of like that idea. Now this is a cool little setup. This is my rag box. I got some microfiber disposable cloths, some little stir sticks. I got these little fishing rod holders. These glue rollers are cool. Anyway, it's kind of a catch-all spot, but pretty much everything that I need if I'm going to be painting or doing finish or anything like that, it's all right here in this one spot. The only thing I haven't added yet is my rubber gloves. This is something else that I did, using dowels. They look pretty good. I got some more on the other side I'm going to show you in just a second, but you just cut these dowels down, paint them black. Kind of a neat look. This one here is just a router bit case that I just put a cleat right on it. Bigfoot siding. That's my push stick. That's the sign that Steve at My Honey's Handmade made for me. Great guy, check out his channel. Now I did not glue these in, but they're tight. I mean, you can't even twist them, and this is no load, and I just hung some random things on here, and I'm sure it'll change. I talked about it earlier. The flexibility is one of the beautiful things about this. Something you may not have seen, painted up some dowels, used some fishing rod holders. I only had a few of these, but it's like an automotive clip fastener. So those are something to think about. And I got a few tricks up my sleeve. I'm gonna trick out a few of these builds. So a couple little small suggestions in addition to the video. Thanks for sticking around. No snorting sawdust.